In this tutorial, we'll be going over how you can use Procreate to make some pretty simple edits to a photo to make it look more enhanced. And to show you what I mean here, I have this image here starting out, which looks pretty good as it is, but after some simple adjustments, we can make it look like this. And after we make these adjustments, it just looks like it pops a little more. So let's go over how to do this. I'm going to come back over here to my gallery and I'm going to open up a new image over here in a separate document, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Now, when making these adjustments, I would recommend that you create a duplicate copy of the layer so that you have an original on hand if you want to go back to it, and it also gives you something to compare it to. So let me open up my layers menu, and I'm going to slide this to the left a little bit, and I'm going to tap duplicate, and we're going to apply these adjustments to the duplicate layer. So let's close out of that. Let's come over here to our adjustments menu, and let's start off with a simple hue, saturation, brightness adjustment. I'm going to start off by taking the saturation slider and just bringing that to the right a little bit, just to add some more color or some more vibrancy to the image there. And depending on your image, you may not want to go too far, otherwise you'll be adding too much color to the image. For this image, it looks good if I bring it pretty far to the right. Now make sure to use your own discretion when doing this because, like I said, every image is different. What we're also going to do is adjust the brightness now, because if you notice over here, this image right here has a grill in the front of the car, and you can't really see it because it's kind of dark over there. So if I increase the brightness, you can see those details start to come out a little more. Okay, so with an adjustment like this, a little bit goes a long way. So you don't want to go too far like this and end up with a washed out image like that. So just use a little bit, maybe go from 50 to 56 like that for this image anyway. And that already looks a lot better. Now the problem we're having now is that the entire image looks a little too bright. So let's add some darkness back into those dark areas by adding another adjustment. I'm going to add another adjustment. This time we're going to go with curves. And from this list over here, you want to make sure you choose gamma. We have red, green, and blue as well. For now, we're just going to focus on the gamma. And I'm going to take this node over here in the bottom left corner and just slide that to the right a little bit, just to add some darkness back into those dark areas of the image. And if you notice, it restores a lot of the darkness to that image there, but without washing out the details of that grill on the car, as you can see there. So I'm going to go right about there. And now I'm going to add some brightness to the image as well. I'm going to take this top right node and slide this to the left a little bit. Let me try that again. There we go. Now again, you don't want to go too far with this, because if you notice, if I go too far, we're starting to lose the details in this part of the image over here. So make sure to pay attention to that when you're doing this. Again, a little bit goes a long way. So I'm going to add just a touch there like that. And if I close out of this and go back to my layers menu, you can see there's already a big difference there. It already looks a lot better. There's still some more edits that we can make though. So let me close out of this. Let me go back to my adjustments menu. And this time I'm going to go to the color balance option. Now within color balance, you could tap this button right here and you can see there's three different ways we can apply this. We can apply it to the highlights, the midtones, or the shadows. So to start off, I'm going to use the shadows, which represent the darker areas of the image. And you can add or remove colors based on these three options down here. So I'm going to add a little bit of blue to the shadows here. Not a little bit, just a touch to make it look nice like that. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to come over here to the midtones. Now, if you notice, we have a red car here. So if I want to add some vibrancy to that red paint job, I can come over here and add a little bit of red to the image. Again, you don't want to go too far. A little bit goes a long way. If I go too far, I start losing details. So pay attention to the details in the image while you're doing this. I'm just going to move it over just a touch. And that looks a lot better. And then finally, we'll apply it to the highlights. So the highlights represent the lighter areas of the image. I'm just going to apply a touch of magenta into the highlights just to add a little bit of warmth to the image, to that sunset. And that looks a lot better. We can close out of that now. And one more adjustment I'm going to make is I'm going to sharpen the image. So I'm going to come back over here to my adjustments layer, and I'm going to choose sharpen this time. And if you slide your pencil to the right, you can see we get a lot more clarity and definition in the image as we do that. The problem with using sharpen is that it can add a lot of speckling and noise if you go too far. So I would recommend zooming in on the image while you do this, just to make sure you're not going too far. So if I bring this up too much, you can see we get a lot more noise in there in the color. So I don't want to use 100%. I want to use a lower value, maybe like something like around 50% or maybe 60. And if I zoom out, that looks a lot better. So let me close out of this. And at this point, I think we're done. We can go back to the layers menu and you could toggle this off and on and see the difference that we've made. We started off with this, which looked nice as it was. And then we ended up with something like this right here, which looks a lot better. Now, if you find that these adjustments are too intense, you can bring down their intensity by tapping this little N icon right here, and then just bringing down the opacity. So if I bring the opacity all the way down, we're back to the original starting point. But if I bring it up about halfway, we have about half of the effect that we previously had, which may be a nice balance depending on your image and how far you went with your adjustments. So let me minimize that, and I could toggle this off and on, and you could see our adjustments make the image vibrant and lively than it did previously. So that should do it for this tutorial. That is how you can enhance an image in Procreate using some very simple adjustments.